I'm going to go into 10 lessons that I've learned from 100 hires. And so I'm going to put the lesson on the board and I'm going to explain it in some context. So lesson 1 is be very clear on what an A player looks, feels, and acts like. So what I mean by this, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday in my presentation, there's a certain type of person who's going to win no matter what. And we do not want to hire people who are, have no past history success. Like they've never won once in their life. Like, would I bet money on that person to win if I had to? No, of course not. The only people who I want on my team have won over and over again in their life. And that might seem unfair, but at the end of the day, you have to run your business like that because we're not running a charity. What I see happen all the time is people hire salespeople kind of out of desperation. They'll just like hire the first guy who basically doesn't give them a reason not to hire them, right? And so the point of this is to be a hell yes. And if it's not a hell yes, like, and what I mean by hell yes is like you're calling everyone and be like, dude, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And if you do that, then it's probably going to be something good. I've never had someone work out well long term who I didn't feel about that way initially, right? And so when you hire someone who's just, buy nice or buy twice, like that kind of example, you just hire someone who isn't bad, so to say, then what happens is your business, instead, let's say you're doing $100,000 a month. Then this guy comes in and he doesn't lock up any deals. Maybe he locks up a bunch of contracts, but none of them are deals. Then you have no revenue on the board for the next month. You lose money. You come in and you're like, man, I got to go and hustle just so I can put cash back on the board. And then you come in this cycle over and over again. And then now you believe you can't hire. And that's not actually the truth. You just picked wrong. And selection will solve most of your problems. Lesson 2 is my interview questions are built to uncover the level of success a candidate has had in their life. And so the reason why I ask questions to figure out how successful someone has been in the past is because, trends matter, right? If they've been good in the past, they're probably going to be good in the future. So a question that I'd ask is like, tell me about your greatest success that you've ever had. Okay, they're going to tell me, like, let's do this actually. Who wants to volunteer to do this? I'm going to ask you guys questions. In the very back? All right, I'll go here, Justin. I don't want to walk back there. Yeah. Justin just has an ego, that's all. All right, Justin, what's your greatest accomplishment?
Finishing level 100.
What about the level 100 was super important to you?
Honestly, because most of the race I wanted to quit and I just didn't.
What kind of stuff did you have to do in preparation to complete the level 100?
I had to be extremely disciplined in my training. I had to overcome multiple obstacles with injury. And yeah, it kind of put stress on our business and our relationship. So I had to get better in kind of all facets of my life in order to be prepared to even potentially finish.
Be specific. What did you specifically do to repair your relationship with your fiance?
So I was spending very little time doing stuff around the house and on our business. And I kind of recognized that. She pointed it out. So I hired a coach to kind of realign my priorities so that way I could actually get all the shit done during the week for work and in the house. So that way I could go and do my training runs on the weekend and every day.
And then what kind of things did you learn and take away from this experience?
The big thing was time blocking, just auditing what I was doing and realizing that I had a large portion of the day that I was wasting and not wasting that time, especially when I was doing something that was so time intensive with training.
Got it. That makes sense. And if you were to do this again, train for Leadville again, what would you do and how would you do it better this time?
I had a training plan, but that training plan would include every aspect of my life and not just focus around running.
Beautiful. So would you guys say Justin is a winner or a loser? Exactly. Thank you, Justin. The reason I ask those questions is, one, I want to know what thought went into this whole thing. I want to know the way he thought about it, because you can tell a lot about someone's intelligence and also their ability to reflect on a situation on how they're going to grow into the next one. And so I'm asking questions like, what went into it? What roadblocks do you have happen? Because if you'd have been like, oh yeah, there was nothing that happened. No negatives. Bro, you ran 100 fucking miles. There's no way that's true. Even if it would have been something through the race, something happened in the race where there was some problem you had to solve and you learned a lesson from it, and yours was just through the preparation, right? And so there could have been a million ways this went. That's one thing that I'm asking. The other thing I'm looking for when I'm asking you is, I said, what did you learn from this? And everything is I took this away and I'm going to get better next time because of this lesson. And so when I'm asking this, I'm looking for, how are you going to improve next time without me even asking that? And you were able to do that very easily. And then the last piece is how would you do it again if you were to do it better? And this shows me that you can look, let's say, for example, as a sales guy, this shows me that you could listen to a sales call and be like, yeah, this was bad because of 1, 2, and 3 reasons. And I can do better next time. And if you can just never make the same mistake twice, then you're going to be really good in a very short period of time. So those are a couple of the reasons. I'm sure there's some other ones that come up, but yeah, does that make sense? Cool. All right, lesson 3. So not a hell yes, and hell no. Went through this a little bit. For this one, I'm going to talk about how I use my gut to connect with with this. So this is all a gut feeling, and I heard this presentation from this guy, Ryan. This guy's name was Bert, right? From Agency Founders, sold his company for like 100 million. Yeah, Lord Bert's his Instagram. But he got on stage and he was like, yeah, dude, I spend like 2 hours a day just like meditating and connecting with my gut. It's like, that's interesting. And he sold me on it. And I was like, this is really smart, because your gut is never wrong. Like, how many times have you made a decision, it just felt a little off, you made the decision anyways, and you're like, that was an absolute disaster. Done that plenty of times. And so the way that this needs to work is, for me, if I feel nothing when I'm going through something and hiring, then I know that it's not a hell yes. I need to feel like an overwhelming amount of like excitement for the situation, and then that's going to allow me to know if I'm making the right decision or not. And so a couple frames that I use to think about when I'm asking this is like, if I was to bet my entire net worth on this person working out or not, would I do it? And like, it's not about the actual money, the risk reward, but what it does is it puts you in a frame where you have to make a yes or no decision, and your intuition is going to lead you in the right direction. Another one I use is like, if I stuck a gun to my head and I had to make a yes or no right now, what would my answer be? And if it's not like a yes, then it's definitely a no. It has to be a yes right away. And the third one I use all the time is, if you're choosing between something hard and easy, and you're not doing the easy thing right away, then you should do the hard thing. So you have to determine in a situation, is it easy or hard to hire this person or to wait and find someone else? And so for me, interviewing more people is always the hard thing. Hiring the person is always the easy thing in this frame, right, for my gut. So if I'm not hiring this person right away, not feeling like I should just give them the offer on the call and be like, I want to give you this offer letter right now. If I don't feel that, then I shouldn't do it. All right, lesson 4. Once it's a hell yes, you do it fast. This is a lesson that I've learned because there's been a lot of people who were hell yeses, and for whatever reason, I drug my feet to bring them on, and they took another job. Now, I don't know if these people actually would have worked out, but I was like, man, this guy's great. But it's kind of like, I don't want to seem needy, you know? I don't want to seem like I'm the person who needs this guy more than he needs me. But in reality, as soon as you know that this person's the right decision, you should bring them on board. It's not, and you're going to be like, okay, well, it's hire slow, fire fast. For me, that means when you hire slow, you have to take a long time to find the right person. But when you find that person, you pick them right away. And then when they're on your team, if they suck day one, fire them. Like, they're not going to be better than they are your first day. It's the best version you get of them. And if they aren't good, then you get rid of them. And so that's how I look at this. I would say the only caveat to that, and I will use one of my best friends as an example of this, is he's a multimillionaire, became financially independent, and then he took 2 years off to go and travel the world. And then he got a job right away when he came back. And so I think if someone is unemployed, it's like they have to already, like, there's two profiles I find work. It's either someone who's young, hungry, has all the right character traits and no skills, and they will be successful no matter what. So you pick them as an appreciating asset. Or they've already been successful, and the reason they're working is because they just do it for the love of the game. And those are the two avatars. So that if they aren't one of those two, then you don't want to be in the middle ground, because the middle ground's terrible. An A player is going to be able to take something and grow it without you, and you just need to support them. I think in the simplest way, that's my first answer. Is they're going to be able to go and you say, here's your goal, here's what we're going to do, here's the vision, what do you need from me? And then you just keep them accountable, keep them on path. They're gonna achieve it with your support. A B player, you're gonna have to hold their hand a little bit more, but they can still do that. And then I think a B player, what you do is, when the way I would describe that, how it kind of feels, is if you were to say, let's say like you get them up to performing KPI. A B player should be able to maintain that performance on their own over a long period of time, but they're not going to grow it, if that makes sense. So they're like a maintainer. You got to have those people in your companies, I believe, because they're going to be able to do the same thing over and over again. An A player is going to take that department and is going to grow it without you. And then a C player, I don't even want those guys. It's like, as soon as you leave, what's going to happen is, like, if you stop overseeing their sales calls, you stop overseeing whatever they're doing, it's going to get worse. And that's kind of how I would describe it. A players kind of don't let problems happen. B players notify you of problems. And then you have to coach them into being able to solve those to become B+. I think the difference between a lot of times a B player and an A player is their drive and like their willingness to win. Like, an A player wants to win at all costs and has some skills, right? And like, at the end of the day, like, I try to give everyone an IQ test because I want people with above average intelligence. But the different, like, an A player can become a B player if they just lose their drive to be great. And I think a B player, I don't know if they can become a true A player, because usually there's just like raw talent that an A player has that a B player doesn't. But I think they can become a B+ player, and like, you can still leverage them in a good way if they have like the drive to do it. My IQ is higher than 120, and I overthink things a lot. But if your IQ is below 110, then you can't learn fast enough to keep going, and you kind of like you just miss like little cues. And so I feel like the sweet spot's like 110 to 120, because you're just smart enough to be able to catch on quickly, but you're just dumb enough to not really think it all the way through. Go to the next one. Yeah. I'll go back. But I want to talk about this one. Selection will solve 80% of your problems. Like, I was talking to Mike and JC, and they're like, dude, why do some people we hire just work out? Like, we don't have to try. And it's because you selected the right person. If you select the wrong person, you can follow your process perfectly, your onboarding process, your hiring process, your whatever, and they just aren't going to work. And that's just the truth. Well, they just are a loser, and we want winners. As harsh as that is, it's the truth. Everyone played sports at a high level, or everyone was like top of their class in the military or special ops or something like that. I think one thing you can look for in that, like one of the, like it is like on the PI, how high their A is. So like how high their competition, their drive is. If you're for a salesperson, you want their A to be like 2 sigmas to the right. And that basically means that they're going to, it's kind of like the optimal range. We're not going to be too pushy or not enough pushy. And so like that's like an important thing that you want for salespeople, because if they have a low A, then they're not going to push the deal through. Now you can hire people who have like not the perfect profile or the perfect things, but you have to like always be reminding them of, hey, this is your bias and like this is what your tendency is. So you need to feel uncomfortable here in order to have success, which is hard for burnout. So yeah, but pick the right person. And then I'll talk about how to identify that once you hire them. Always Google your candidates, ask for references. I don't do background checks, but you probably should. I heard a story of a guy who stole a bunch of stuff, a bunch of money. But as this story Ryan talked about, we were going to hire this sales guy. This dude was the best salesperson, best sales interview I've ever had. We were like loving this guy. Like he taught us, like he's like John Lalonde, but like lived in Colombia, got kicked out of the US, had a baby mama over there, did all the things. And this guy was like riding motorcycles through Medellin, through the mountains. Cool dude, super sick guy, and amazing at sales. We were like, okay, we should hire him. Our sales guy at the time Googled him. He's like, hey guys, you probably want to look at this. Dude had a domestic violence charge, was scamming people and like roofing, $30,000. And we're going to hire this guy. So point is like, definitely do Google everyone. You'll find a lot about them. So we got lucky. Better be lucky than good any day. Correct wrong behavior instantly. There's this video I watched. It's like a psychology video, and it talks about how like as a parent you can create a monster in your kid. And basically it gave the example of when you have a kid, you go to Walmart, let's say, and they're like, oh, I want a chocolate. Like the kid's like 5 years old. It's like, oh, dad, I want a chocolate. I don't have kids, by the way, but I just watched this video because I love psychology. And he's like, oh, I want a chocolate. And you're like, no, you can't have the chocolate. Then they start crying. You're like, no, you still can't have the chocolate. Then they start yelling and making a crazy ruckus. And you're like, no, you can't have the chocolate. Then they start like beating their head against the floor. And you're like, fine, stop. You can have the chocolate. What that does is that reinforces the behavior that acting out of line is okay. And it's like training a dog, right? When you reinforce bad behavior, like let's say the dog jumps on the couch and you start petting it and you don't want it to jump on the couch. Well, that you're rewarding it for jumping on the couch and doing the wrong thing. Or if you do nothing at all, it's the same thing. And so as soon as something happens that is not what you want, you have to recognize it and address it right away. It could be a day later after you sleep on it. It could be right in the moment if you think about it. But the point is you cannot allow it to happen over and over again, because it sets the frame and the tone for how the relationship's going to go. And so the moment that someone shows up late to a Zoom call on their first day with their camera off, I'm like, hey man, we don't show up late to Zoom calls with our cameras off. Turn your camera on and let's have a good meeting. Show up on time next time. And they're like, okay, yes sir, never do it again. But right there is like, if you check them, it's like, if you allow that, then that's the standard you're allowing off the get. For me, if you know me, I always show up late to Zoom calls. But no one can show up late to the first Zoom call. Like that's just a bad look, right? I would never do something like that if I was working for someone, and I would never expect someone to do that on my team, especially at the beginning. Now, I do always show up like 2 or 3 minutes late to Zoom calls, but that's a different story. Let's say that your goal is 60, like your 3 hours of talk time per day per acquisition guy. Let's say he hits 2 hours and 50 minutes. What would you do?
I would ask like, hey, is there a reason we didn't hit 3 hours today?
And then what if I was like, oh man, like I got a contract, bro, like first day, like went really well. I got like 3 people in the pipeline. I'll make sure I hit it tomorrow.
Okay, let's make sure we hit it tomorrow and see what happens tomorrow. Happen again.
Okay, that'd be great. The point is like, hey man, like what I would say if we had that and it was the first day, it's like, hey, the standard's 3 hours. I know you had a great day and I really appreciate that, but it's 10 more minutes. Just put the extra work in to make sure it never happens again. And you just check him right away. And then he will make sure that if he's ever like right there, he's going to hit it because he knows he's going to get addressed. And if you do that right up front, you don't really have to do that much throughout the relationship. I tell everyone on the onboarding call, like, I want you to message anyone back in the company within 5 minutes. No longer. If you're working, there's no reason you shouldn't answer every phone call I have for you. And there's no reason that you should take longer than 5 minutes to text me back. It's pretty easy. I mean, you have your Slack open on your computer, have notifications on, whatever. Cameras on. It's like the little things are like the important things. And usually the big things of like, am I making calls? Am I trying to learn the script? Like all that stuff is there. But it's like correcting the little things is like what I think holds people to it, because that's what separates good and great, is how you perform the small details. Sweet. Lesson 9. You are the bridge for your team to reach their goals. So I think this is super important. A lot of people see this as like your team is like you like are the person telling your team what to do. Your team has goals, and everyone on your team has goals, and it's important to know what they are. And then it's important to have conversations about how you can help them get there. And so like, once a quarter, once every 6 months at some point, like talk about it with them, right? Run a quarterly where you just talk about what do they want to achieve next quarter or this year, right? Every year, like, hey, what's your goal for the year? Like Devin talked about the accountability tracker yesterday and how they map out the 5 things they want to achieve, 3 personal and 2 business. And like then every week they track it and talk about it. That's being a bridge to support people to get to the goals they want. And their goals could be monetary. Their goals could be to start their own business. Their goals could be to do whatever. But you want to fit yourself in as the bridge to help them get there. Lesson 10. I think most employees don't actually want to leave or quit, but they will as soon as they view you as not being the best option. I think most people who work for someone else would like to stay because it doesn't disrupt their life and their business, especially if they're making good money. But the moment where they feel like their goals, their aspirations are out of alignment with yours, then they're going to start looking elsewhere. And I think that's just the reality of how things work. So when I think about this, one of the things I always try to do is talk about what is the vision, what is the vision, what does the future look like, and how do you fit into it? Just like anytime we talk, just like always thinking about, yes, we got to solve the current problem, but every so often, monthly or whatever time period that kind of makes sense for your relationship with that person. So if it's a direct report, probably gonna be on like a monthly basis, like just sharing like what you're doing and what you're seeing and how you're growing the company. And as you have more people on your team, we would do like a monthly town hall where we were presenting the vision of the company and like what we're doing to move the business forward on a monthly basis. So like, hey, this is how last month went. Here's kind of the vision for the year. Here's how we're tracking. Here's what we're doing. And then how do you guys feel like you can help in your roles to also do this? And so we're always sharing like what we're doing, how they're fitting in. And then it's the responsibility to help them see how they fit in as the manager and as the CEO. Obviously, as you get bigger, the systems to do that change. But when you're, have a team of 5 to 10 people, it's pretty easy. Just talk to them once a month. You can talk to everyone once a month easily for 15 minutes about this.
This is kind of what I do for like a hiring exercise. We're not going to do it now, but when you guys do go hire, write a few traits of people that that are A players. So, look in this room, anyone else and write down what they're good at and, what makes them an A player. Usually they're self-assured and decisive. They constantly deliver. They're committed to hardworking. They do the work even though it sucks. They build strong relationships, hold themselves to a high standard, and actively pursue growth and development. So once you have that, this will come in a little bit later. I'm coming up with kind of interview questions, but we'll go ahead forward for now. So now that you identified A players, now you're going into the hiring process. So our team, 90% is from our network. So 1, when we're going to hire, we're always going to go ask our team, hey, do you know anybody? 2, we'll go to social media, and here's a sample of the social media posting right here. Just post it on it. Even if you don't think you have the following, you never know who's looking for a change up. The third one, texting 10 people. And the frame is not like, hey, are you looking for a job? It's, hey, do you know anyone looking for a job? We had a client, Jay, that he's like, I don't have the network you guys do. And we're like, okay, go do this. Come to us next week. And now he just hired a sales manager who was looking for a change up from her career, going to be an A player, going to help him with his operations and level it up. With our team, so our acquisitions director came from social media. Our other acquisitions person, we asked our director. He knew somebody, so he brought in somebody from his network. So now we got 2 A players on acquisitions. Dispo came from social media. Our other Dispo rep came from that Dispo rep, just from somebody he knew. So a lot of people on our team have come from our network versus social media or job postings. We do have 1 person that we hired from Indeed, but network is where I'm always going to start hiring first. So the hiring process for just posting online, Indeed has worked really well for us. LinkedIn, Wise Hires works for some other people as well. You're going to get a lot of applications. So this is kind of how we sort through it. For us, we hire acquisitions only. So when I get a bunch of applications, I'm going to go through them, find the people I do like. I'm going to send them this message just because I want to see if they can follow directions. I had the questions right here. What separates you from the other salespeople? So why are you a winner? On a scale of 1 to 10, how coachable are you? We want people who are coachable. We know what we're doing. You're going to be good. If you're good, our process will make you money. We work on the East Coast time. Sometimes we get people out west. We want to make sure they go with the Eastern time zone. And then I send them did you read this paragraph below? Down here is basically like, hey, this is a commission only role. You can crush it here, but you're going to have to put in work and send this to our email. So if someone doesn't fill this out, flag goes up in my head. I'm like, okay, not the person for me. We'll move on. Once you get the applications in, they respond to that message. This is our process here. I'll go and do an intro call. I'm just making a cold call them. You know, we're in a sales industry. You have to pick up your phone. So I'm gonna call them unscheduled, see if they answer. If they don't, I'll make a little mental note of that, of like, okay, you know, they didn't answer their phone. Hopefully they were just busy, but I will make a mental note of it. Then we'll just kind of go through the intro call, you know, just kind of get to know a little bit about the role, get a little bit to know about them, see if I think they're good enough, and then we'll schedule those video interviews after. So when we go to our first video interview process, you know, intro, get their background, great player questions, which we're going to go to in a second. But as Chandler was mentioning, the role play is the big thing that we're looking for. You know, after that intro call, I'm going to give them a script. We're going to come in here, do role play. Then we're going to go give them feedback on that role play. Sometimes ask a little bit of questions just to see if, you know, kind of take it away from the role play, because I want to go back and do that role play to see if they're coachable. Again, you know, we know what we're doing. If they're good enough, they should be able to follow the process. They're gonna make lots of money. But if they're stubborn in their ways and they don't pick up on the feedback, again, I'm gonna take a little mental note of that. And then final questions, and then set expectations. Here, if we think they're, you know, a hell yes, we will hire them quickly, you know, get that offer out. If we're iffy about it, then we'll go into a role play 2. And that's just gonna be a panel interview. That's coming up. Interview questions. So this is like the exercise 2. So once you have the traits of the A players, it's coming up with questions around those. You know, for someone that's self-assured, describe a time that you made a quick decision. You know, what are your current goals? You know, can you give me an example this week of how you worked to those goals? Describe a time you went above and beyond. So a bunch of other questions in here, just all relating back to those traits. Big one, you know, tell me about a time you won. Again, we want people who are winners on our team. So a bunch of interview questions, all kind of pertaining back to the traits of A players. All right, cool. So if after that first interview, you know, we were kind of iffy about them, like, okay, they could be good, but we want to do another role play. We'll basically go through that whole process again on interview 1, but we'll bring someone from our team, you know, so we'll bring our acquisitions director, just to kind of see how they feel about them, to get a separate opinion on it. All right, so once you made the offer, then we'll go into the onboarding stuff. All this is going to be a really quick bullet points. At the end, I'll have a QR code that links to the full SOP. I wouldn't go through that with you guys, it'd be boring, but we're going to basically go and equip them without overwhelming them. An A player, you should be able to give them the tools and they're going to go do it and succeed. The B and C players, those are going to be the ones you have to hold their hand the whole time. So we have a one-sheeter for our onboarding. It'll have all the tools and logins, has our SOPs and our sales process on there, and then also what their daily workflow is. Going down the loop here, I'm providing the feedback loops. So we have daily calls with our teams, so that will be the whole team. But while you're onboarding somebody, you want to be communicating with them at least 60 minutes a day. You basically want to keep doing that for 7 days until you feel like you're wasting your time. Like, okay, this guy's got it. We don't need to be doing this. So that's kind of the judgment. Every person's gonna be a little bit different. You maybe find someone where you need 2 or 3 days. You maybe find someone where it takes a little bit longer. The big thing, you want to empower them, don't babysit them, so encourage them to fail. And the big thing too, if you're onboarding for the first time, I always suggest any question they ask you, write it down. Because if you're going to bring somebody else on, I'm sure they're going to have that same question. So just making sure you're writing down all the questions that they ask. So quick recap, A players, they're going to expedite your business and your growth. So don't settle for B and C players. Clearly define what an A player is. Again, we all want them, but you have to really know what it is. Otherwise you're not going to find it. Interview questions, cater your questions to those A players. Onboarding is really going to set the tone of your business. What you will and will not tolerate. The quicker you onboard, the quicker you're going to see results. We skipped a slide. Want to go back a couple? All right, yeah. Did we just fly past this the first time? I don't know. But yeah, onboarding, this is what's really going to set the expectation of your company. If you have a bad onboarding process, people are going to think it's a joke. They're going to do what they want. So you have to really have that accountability on that first thing. So clearly set expectations. You know, this is what I'm going to want to see from you. 30 days, you know, I want you to go comb the CRM and find a contract. You know, go through the cold follow-ups, all that stuff. 60 days, you know, we'll get leads, 2 contracts. 90 days, you got to have 3 contracts. Otherwise, we're going to have the conversation. But the big thing with that is sharing the big picture of the company. Like, hey, this quarter we want to hit $250,000. You know, this is how this work. Your KPIs are going to match into this goal. It's a lot easier to hold somebody accountable to a goal and what their goal is. Like if you want to make 6 figures and they're falling short on their KPIs that I show them that can help them hit 6 figures, it's easy to go to them and be like, hey, you're falling behind. Like, how can I help you help yourself? So that was the one we missed. But yeah, in here, if you scan that, it's got full SOPs on hiring. It's got that social media posting. It has all of our onboarding SOPs as well. So a lot more in depth. I kind of went high level over everything because going through SOPs, I'd enjoy it, but I don't know if you guys would.